Good evening. I would like to call tonight's meeting of the Tacoma Park City Council to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Sorry about that. Mayor Searcy,
Here.
Councilmember Landman,
Here.
Councilmember DeBala,
Present.
Councilmember Schlegel. Yeah, Councilmember Gilbert,
Here.
Councilmember Hanzak,
Present.
Councilmember Wesselek.
Here.
Okay. And just as Councilmember Schlegel is traveling, and so he will be joining us virtually. So we just ask for folks to just be patient as we are getting him logged into the meeting. Changes to the agenda. There are no changes to the agenda this evening. Tonight, we will be voting to go into recess until January the 13th. So I don't have as many things to go through in terms of upcoming agendas as we work on that. So in terms of items for this evening, I'm going to switch some things around because I know that we have some residents here from the Arts and Humanities Committee. So we're going to have the Arts and Humanities Committee annual report up first, followed by the Housing and Community Development annual report. And these are two presentations we're going to have this evening. We will then have two items as part of our voting session. The first is a resolution adopting the FY27 budget priorities, and the second is the resolution providing for the City Council winter recess. With that, we're going to move to public comments. Do we have any public comments this evening? Public comments on voting items this evening.
Sorry, I'll wait.
No, it's fine.
I'll be here anyway.
No worries. I saw your comments. Are they about the budget priorities?
Oh, yeah, I hope so.
Okay. Well, you can come on down. That's the voting items we have this evening.
Good evening, Paul Hubner, Ward 3. As you deliberate on our council priorities, I hope you will once again include and deliberate wisely on the seemingly forgotten fiscally sustainable government. Even our distinguished and righteous Senator Chris Van Hollen laments that, quote, too many of our families are struggling to cover rising costs, rent, groceries, health and energy bills, end quote. He says further, federal employees and contractors are still trying to bounce back from Trump's shutdown and relentless attacks on our federal workforce. In the new year, thousands of Marylanders will see their health insurance premiums increase or lose their insurance coverage entirely because of the loss of funding for the Affordable Care Act. I have sent to each of you a spreadsheet of the continual annual financial shortfalls for the last 7 years. Please read them carefully as you consider what you are voting for, and don't forget our neighbors. You must account and answer for the errors of the past, whether you are a party to these or not. You must consider that over the last 7 years, you have voted to approve over $30 million more in expenditures than revenue for an annual deficit of over $4 million per year. The city manager is forecasting another $2.472 million deficit for this coming year, FY27. Yet this year he proposes to use another $1.1 million from reserves for equipment and cars. I remind you that he said in his FY25 budget letter to this council, he said, quote, my staff and I will work over the course of the next year in preparation for the proposed FY26 budget to develop strategies for returning the city to a more solid and sustainable financial footing, including less reliance on excess reserves and grants to pay for general fund appropriate expenditures. Yet we're back to 1.1 mil from reserves again. Something must be done to build a real, fiscally sustainable government and provide property tax relief to city residents, many of whom are struggling to make these tax payments. We must do something besides business as usual. A council priority of real fiscal sustainability would be a strong start, and I urge you to please look at the graph and look at the numbers. They're astronomical. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other comments on voting items this evening? Come on down.
Good evening, Milford Sprecher from Ward 1. Last meeting, I made a short presentation, and I kind of heard through the grapevine that there was some discussion about the accuracy of some of the numbers. So I went and took a look at their, specifically the police department per capita spending, and that was based on the 2025 adopted budget and 2023 census figures, which is what we had at the time. So, I think that number was correct, though, taking a look at, at the budget as a whole, there are items that are in the police department budget that are police department expenses but are not included in the budget, such as capital for police cars and things like workers' compensation. So, but one of the benefits of what I've done with this is that I've gotten a chance to look at other city budgets. And the city of Gaithersburg, you should look at their budget document. It is a really nice document. It has performance measures in there, so there's reports on what the departments have done. And again, looking at the police department, they have calls, closed cases, and this kind of thing. And it's really a very informative document. Maybe they have a more sophisticated budget program than we have here, but certainly something to take a look at in terms of transparency for the citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other comments this evening on voting items? Any general comments on voting items? I'm sorry, any virtual comments on voting items? No, I'm all messed up. Last meeting. Do we have any general public comments this evening? Come on down.
Hi, Mayor, City Council. Elizabeth Wallace, Ward 1. First, I'd like to correct a date I mentioned the last time I stood here. The mayoral race I was referring to was 2013, not 2018. Time flies. I have a suggestion. Recently, I set off my security alarm by accident when I left the house. Later, I saw on my cameras that 2 officers canvassed the home within minutes of the alarm. Thank you very much for that. This was the second time I'd set the alarm off this year, and I was charged $25. I think that's reasonable, considering the officer's time and use of city equipment, but I now pay more attention when exiting my home. All that is to say, the City Council might want to consider implementing an ordinance which other cities do, which charges commercial establishments and sometimes property owners for an excessive number of police responses deemed to be a public nuisance. These are often titled Excessive Use of Police Services Ordinances and are designed to motivate property owners to address ongoing problems. I'm not referring to setting off alarms in error. That's different. Some cities include Frederick, St. Paul, Phoenix, and Cottage Grove, Minnesota. The primary goal is not revenue generation, but to encourage property owners to take responsibility for recurring issues that drain public safety resources. Fees usually kick in after a certain number of calls within a specified period. Ordinances usually include a notice period and an appeal process. Exemptions are made for calls from victims of certain crimes, which are, of course, not penalized. In the past, the police reports showed larceny after larceny every week at Walgreens, which required multiple police responses. Eventually, I understand they hired their own security guard, according to Chief Duvall in a recent meeting, with encouragement from himself and supposedly members of the City Council. Now, I rarely see a report of service to that location. Aldi started to have a similar problem, and it was mentioned at the last police safety meeting that they stopped allowing self-checkout, and so the incidences decreased. In the case of lodging establishments on New Hampshire Avenue, the definition of a nuisance event might include loud parties, fights, drug activity, prostitution, or other conduct that disturbs the peace or threatens public safety. So perhaps those hotels, as well as 7-Eleven and the gas stations, which experience frequent carjackings and thefts from vehicles, should also be encouraged to hire private security commensurate with the activity. A security system or guard is a cost of doing business, just like it is a cost of living in my home. There's always a pro and con to everything. Some say it could deter residents or employees from calling for necessary police help for fear of incurring fines, but that's up to the City Council to weigh those concerns with proper metrics, not opinions. I invite you to think about it, and I'm interested in your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, do we have any other general public comments this evening? Seeing none, do we have virtual? Oh, wonderful. Okay, we're going to move to council comments this evening. Do we have any council comments? All right, I'm not seeing any council comments this evening. All right. Okay, well, people are obviously ready for recess. I'm going to do a quick run through just because I have to. I want to give a thank you to the Washington Adventist University for their wonderful, the music department for their wonderful Christmas concert. It was wonderful on Friday. And one of the things that I did learn in that process is that Washington Adventist University is the only university in the state that has a music therapy program, which is something new to learn. So I would encourage folks to definitely check out their music department because they are phenomenal. I want to thank the organizers. There were so many things that are happening this weekend. It's just a true testament to the giving spirit of the residents of Tacoma Park. We had the blood drive that was here on Saturday. There was also the alternative gift fair that happened this weekend, and I had a fantastic time just interacting with volunteers from various nonprofit organizations, many of which originated here in the city of Tacoma Park. So it's just really was a wonderful opportunity to be able to learn more about not only what our residents are doing, but the wonderful organizations that they are a part of. Pajama Rama was awesome. So had a chance to walk around in my PJs and my car slippers, which is great. And also the community band performance was really amazing on Sunday as well. In terms of the rest of the week, wow, it's a lot going on. I am presenting or speaking to the Montgomery County Chamber Government Relations Committee tomorrow morning to just talk a little bit more about the priorities that we have as a city. And I will be joined with my colleague, Mayor Judd Ashman from Gaithersburg. I also will be tomorrow evening chatting with Troop 33 of the Boy Scouts. So I'm looking forward to being able to talk to the Scouts about what I am doing and what the role of the mayor is. So that will be wonderful. There's lots of things that are happening this weekend on Friday. There's the Tacoma Park Gift Market. Want to encourage people to go out. And also there'll be an art show here. The Tacoma Artery will have a presentation here at the auditorium. So I will be making the rounds and will attend that as well. And on Saturday, I believe, is the Tacoma Cocoa Crawl in Old Town. So definitely looking forward to participating in that. And unfortunately, there has been a death in the community. Mitch Troppin, who was a volunteer with Small Things Matter, has passed away. And I will be attending his homegoing on Sunday. And so that was as quick as I could make it in terms of things that are going on over this weekend. And so, yeah, Councilmember Honzak.
I did forget one thing. It is during the Cocoa Crawl. I think there's some overlap, but we'd also love to see you over in Long Branch. This is the Winter Mercado from 1 to 5 at the Flower Urban Park area on Saturday. This Saturday, the 14th.
Thank you. All right. So with that, we're going to turn things over to the city manager for city manager comments.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and council and residents and guests. From the Housing and Community Development Department, on Friday, let's see. Got the wrong date, I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. This was okay. I have a date that didn't make sense here, I'm sorry. I will say that we'll check on this, but soon we will have in the community center atrium the opening of a new exhibition featuring local artists from the Tacoma Artery Artist Group. The variety of mediums includes paintings, collage, watercolor, photography and mixed media with themes branching across nature, travel, portraiture, abstracts, landscapes, pets, and more. We will circle back with a date on that, sorry. From the police department, get ready for a festive and fun-filled game night with Santa next week on December 16th from 5 to 7 p.m. We're excited to once again partner with Chuck E. Cheese at the Tacoma Park, in Tacoma Park, to bring an evening full of holiday cheer. Join us for pizza, soft drinks, special goodie bags, and of course, the star of the season, Santa himself. Police Department is still accepting donations for the toy drive. Donations are deeply appreciated and will go directly towards helping local families. You heard me share that our applications have closed, but we only made that choice after more than doubling the number of children that we are helping, from 200 last year to 400 this year. Your donation of new unwrapped toys and gift cards will help bring holiday joy to local children and families in need. While we deeply appreciate your generosity, used toys cannot be accepted. The donation drop-off locations: the Tacoma Park Volunteer Fire Department, which is at 7201 Carroll Avenue, and the Tacoma Park Police Department, which is at 7500 Maple Avenue here. Or, this year we're making it easier than ever to brighten a child's holiday. Pick one toy from our Amazon wish list and help us make a child's holiday brighter. Just look for the wish link on the police webpage, and it will ship directly to us. If you're donating a gift card, please place it in an envelope addressed to Lieutenant Cynthia Williams, Toy Drive, and drop it off at the Police Department administrative window. The Toy Drive collection ends on December 22nd. Thank you for being part of a community filled with kindness, generosity, and heart. Together we will continue to make a meaningful difference. The Police Department is still collecting coats for the Winter Coat Drive through December 19th to give warmth to those who need it. A large box is in the lobby of the Tacoma Park Police Department here at 7500 Maple Avenue. The Police Department will ensure that they are given to those in need during and after the drive. Out of the Cold Shelter for Montgomery County. If you need or see someone who needs help, call the Homeless Info Line at 240-907-2688 or the county's 24-hour crisis center, which is 240-777-4000. And finally, Tacoma Park Police non-emergency line is also open, and we can receive this information. That's 301-270-1100, or the Montgomery County Police non-emergency line, which is 301-279-8000. From the Recreation Department, winter program registration for January through March is currently underway for current scholarship recipients and will open on Monday, December 15th at noon for all city residents. As a reminder, scholarships expire at the end of the year and can be submitted now for the 2026 calendar year. For more information on recreation program scholarships, please visit tacomaparkmd.gov/recreation. The Recreation Department is hosting a holiday teen night at the Recreation Center at 7315 New Hampshire Avenue on Friday, December 19th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. These teen nights are always popular and normally have a packed house. The 16th annual Midwinter Play Day is scheduled for Saturday, February 1st from 1 to 4 p.m. at Piney Branch Elementary School. Community partners and staff are preparing for a strong turnout for this fitness-focused event in partnership with Let's Play America. And finally, a couple shout-outs. Our first staff shout-out is from the Communications Department to Bien, John, Alvaro, and the whole City TV team for their outstanding work at the Will Smith Casa Town Hall on Thursday, December 4th, and more generally, their hard work and dedication over the past few weeks. The City TV team received praise from CASA after the event, just one day after working late hours covering the City Council meeting. This team has had a jam-packed schedule over the past few weeks and has consistently produced great events despite the congestion. So a huge thanks and shout out to our City TV team. And finally, a second shout out is from our Recreation Department. Our Seniors Program Manager, Hazel Hodgson, has hit the ground running since her hire this past summer. She has offered senior trips that fill up, coordinated our holiday luncheon on November 21st that brought together 40 participants, started a Loteria program for the fourth Thursday of the month, which is a traditional Mexican board game similar to bingo, and was just notified that we are the recipient of a grant from the National Recreation and Park Association, supporting healthy aging through parks, and Recreation Instructor Training Grant. Through this award, the city will gain training for up to two instructors, along with essential materials needed to deliver a new class for less active adults needing help with mobility and stamina strengthening. This class will be a one-time 12-week program in 2026. We are so happy to have Hazel on our team. That concludes my report. Thank you. Oh, a minute. Okay. So I'm going to circle back to my original announcement about the Community Center Atrium Art Show. That starts this Friday at 7:30 p.m. here at the Community Center.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move to our presentations this evening. The first is the Arts and Humanities Committee Annual Report.
All right. Thank you for having me. I'm Theodore Carter, Todd Carter. I'm Ward 2, and I'm the chair of the Arts and Humanities Committee. I'm pleased to be here to talk about what we've done over the past calendar year. First, I want to say I appreciate being on the Arts and Humanities Committee, where I work with a lot of other talented Tacoma Parkers who are passionate about the arts and work to bring the arts to the larger community. I also want to recognize Brendan Smith, our Arts and Humanities Coordinator, who helps us focus that passion into clear results. During the 2025 calendar year, more than 2,000 people attended Tacoma Park Arts events. Several times our events have seen standing room only crowds as we need to bring in extra folding chairs into the space to accommodate demand. Don't have that problem tonight. Our programming offers a range of free events, including concerts, theater, dance, film screenings, art exhibitions, improv comedy, and other programs. We offer artists and performers support through honorariums, free performance venue, promotion, and recordings of events by a city TV tech crew that are shared on the local cable stations and YouTube channel, where we have received 138,000 views. Other recent projects include the Hexa Habitat sculpture and habitat for native pollinators outside the Tacoma Park Recreation Center. Some of you came out when we celebrated the installation of that sculpture, along with the local artists who created it in an unveiling last spring. We also oversaw the refurbishment of the black rhino tables at the community center and replaced the weather-worn wood that was installed about 10 years ago, and also city workers applied fresh paint. We're continuing the city sidewalk poetry program, where poetry by local authors is being stamped into the cement by city workers as new sidewalks are built throughout Tacoma Park. Of the 20 slated poems, we have placed 16 with plans to stamp the remaining 4 poems as sites become available. We also oversee the Poet Laureate program, and we are excited to welcome David Alberto Fernandez as our new Poet Laureate. He was at our last meeting. He's clearly energetic, creative, and thoughtful, and we are eager to work with him to develop new programs to reach a wider audience in Tacoma Park. Overall, we're proud of the work we do. We feel we deliver an excellent return to a large number of people for a modest investment by the city. I know I myself am excited to work with Brendan and my talented colleagues on the committee to serve in service of the community in the coming year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. One, I just want to say I've had the joy of having to stand in the back because I've shown up a little late to some of our wonderful performers, and I can attest that these events are so popular within our community, and they're a true testament to what makes Tacoma Park so special. So thank you all so much to the committee and all of the hard work that you've put in, and working with Brendan Smith to make sure that we're able to provide this wonderful amenity to our residents. Councilmember Honzak.
Thank you. Thanks for this presentation and the great report. I wanted to just shout out, your events have been incredible this year. I think better than ever. I too have had the joy of showing up a little bit late and not being able to sit down, and that was exciting to me because we only wish we could pack the crowds like that. Give us some tips, please. We need some entertainment and arts. So I just wanted to, I appreciate that the azalea comment was, that I saw in the early draft isn't in there anymore. And I just wanted, I didn't want to suggest that it shouldn't be anything in there about it. I appreciate that a grant was leveraged by city staff to be able to get the original artist to repaint that azalea. And I just wanted to shout out that. And that slides me into the ask I have for the coming year, which I know you've all heard because I'm like a broken record, but I would be so delighted to see if we can leverage some grant dollars to get some design thinking around a northern gateway to the city near the Purple Line that honors, the welcoming to the city. And I appreciate the signage that's gone up there that now says, "Welcome to City of Tacoma Park," like many of our other openings to the city, with a little art panel underneath it. But I think, I know that residents in Ward 5 have been sad on one hand to see the azalea disappear, and said, "Kara, is that all you've done lately? You've gotten a disappearing sculpture." And I'm like, no. But did you see we have it says Tacoma Park now. So people would love to see artwork. We love the little free libraries that the city supports, as well as the other gorgeous paneling on some of the Flower Avenue metro stops that are really just brighten up that entire Flower Avenue area. And I know it's just, be great. I think I recently took the time to look up who designed those gorgeous silver trees that are outside of Piney Local Park. And it's someone named Judy Sutton Moore, who's actually a Tacoma Park area resident. And if anybody maybe knows more about her than I do, I saw she had some rendition of flowers that kind of reminded me of those trees that she built. And I thought, yeah, that's what I'm imagining, multiculturalism. Anyway, so thanks for a great year of work, and
Thank
look
you.
forward to the year to come.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember DeBala.
Yeah, I just want to say not only do I appreciate the work of the committee and the work of the staff coordinator, but, and not just the programs, but the art as well. And you guys are doing a great job, and I also look forward to the next year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember DeBala. Councilmember Landman.
The reason that the room isn't filled is that our work is more subtle. Not everyone can appreciate it. I just wanted to clarify that. But I'm very impressed with how, as you said, how you do so much with so little, and it's a lesson to us all. I'd like it if you could just share with us a tiny bit about the process that you go through to select the artists that you do, because I've been, not only have I shown up and it's been crowded, I've shown up, I haven't been able to get in. So I know you're doing something that is managing to attract large crowds each time, and the artists are extremely varied. They're from lots and lots of different performance types, and they're also from lots and lots of different cultures, both music and dance and poetry, et cetera. How are you choosing them, and how are you going about that in your committee?
Well, we put out an open call, and from those open calls, we get a pretty huge swath of offerings. And then as a committee, we go through with Brendan's help and narrow that list down. And we do look for a wide range of offerings. And so that's something we're intentional about. And I think we're looking to be more, continue to do that in the coming years.
So do you watch videos or like snippets of videos of their performances
Yes,
and so
so
forth?
a narrative, or some people submit online materials or of snippets of their performances and things like that.
Great, thank you very much. Councilmember Westlake.
Thank you. Thank you so much, echoing all the comments from my colleagues. And I'm excited thinking that there are a couple more poems, because I already have a sidewalk in mind that is on its way in the Hillwood Manor neighborhood, where there's an amazing playground right along Sligo Creek. And literally, it is new sidewalk that is going in front of the house of several artists in that neighborhood, a musician, a painter. Anyway, so I will want to follow up with whoever I need to
Yes.
follow up with to get a request in for that. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, again, thank you for coming out. Thank you so much to the committee and all of the hard work that you all have been doing.
Thanks.
Have a good one. All right, so the next item that we have on the agenda is a presentation on the Housing and Community Development Annual Report.
All right, that's going to be a tough act to follow. Good evening, everyone. I'm Devin McNally. I'm the Director of the Housing and Community Development Department, and it is truly a pleasure to be able to come up here tonight to talk about the incredible work that this department does throughout the year. And this is a presentation, I will note, on our past fiscal year, so if some of the numbers are a little strange, or if there seems to be previous things on there, just recognize that this is from FY25, so ending in June. But we will be talking a little bit about that, and then about some of the work that's underway in FY26. So our department's mission is a pretty wide portfolio. So it goes from preserving and enhancing our built environment, revitalizing our neighborhoods, ensuring safe, decent, and affordable home ownership and rental opportunities, building the capacity of all of our residents and organizations that do fantastic work within the city, encouraging and supporting private and public investment in the city, and enriching the lives of our residents through public art. So with that broad mission, there is a small and incredible team that I get to work with every single day. There are 14 of us, which is 13 full-time staff and then 1 part-time staff member. And then we are also very lucky that every year we're joined by a planning intern as well, who helps deliver a lot of the services that we work to provide the city. I'll briefly go in that a large focus of this past fiscal year has been internal capacity. We, along with kind of working in parallel with the city managers, push towards metrics and kind of modernization, have been working to pull together data. And so this is the first kind of year that we've been really starting to track and centralize a lot of the work that we've been doing. And so as part of that, that has been our new rental licensing system, which is now kind of fully worked out and rolling along. And we are hoping that our rent reporting platform, which just is in the middle of its first kind of test as it takes in rent reports, is live right now, and we're working through some bugs. And we really appreciate our property owners for being very patient with us as we work through that. We also have been doing a lot of recruitment. At the start of the past fiscal year, we had 4 vacancies, and I am very pleased to report that as of December, we are down to 1 vacancy that is in active recruitment. So hopefully we will not be having to post jobs anymore and have a fully staffed department, which has been a challenge in previous years. I do want to always remind people that there are many ways to get in touch with our department. We are always, almost always, up on the 3rd floor from 9 to 5 a.m. Monday through Friday. But we also want to make sure that we're reachable in other ways as well, both calling in, but then online as well. We've made sure to include an online intake portal as well. We want to make sure we're as easy to reach for residents, and that, you know, even if, let's say, you work a job that doesn't allow you to come in and visit our offices, that you're still able to get in touch with us and ask a question. So these are just a few numbers. We have been hard at work this year, and this includes, you already heard about the great work our arts program is doing, and how almost every month they have a really high quality event that is standing room only. We've been working to continue to secure grants for the entire city. This was a weaker year. Obviously, we've had, you know, weaker federal funding, and that means that the competition for state and local grants gets even more intense, and so we're hoping to improve that this coming year. But still, over $300,000. We've provided over $140,000 directly to residents to help them with various emergencies. We had over 500 code enforcement cases resolved. And then we've been out in the public. We typically are doing 1 to 2 public engagements, whether that's tabling, community meetings, or some other form of getting out there with the public. And then dealing directly with people coming into the office, calling in. We had over 450 people that we worked with this past year. So I'm going to go very quickly through a whole lot of information that sums up 12 months of work. So I would say that we've put together what I would say is a wonderful little pamphlet about some of the work that we did. I would encourage everyone to read it. Our staff spent a lot of time kind of putting all this information together and making it look attractive and succinct. And so this is only scratching the surface here. So starting with our art series that you heard about, a lot of amazing concerts, performances, dance. And so we're very excited to continue that. The Hexahabitat sculpture out by the Recreation Center is a fantastic addition to our public art and celebrates our commitment to sustainability. And then we touched upon the sidewalk poetry. So we've done some great work. We have a long history with poetry in the city, and so continuing to kind of make that accessible and show how talented all of our residents are. With our code enforcement department, I really want to highlight our partnership with the Village of Tacoma Park to support our senior homeowners. Our collaboration with them in the past year, they completed 130 repairs and totaled over 1,200 volunteer hours. They have incredible volunteers that are highly dedicated and very skilled, and assist our senior homeowners with accessibility modifications or other smaller scale projects. And you can see an example of one of them up on the screen right now. Occasionally with our code enforcement team, we do have to remediate certain issues. And so they conducted over $25,000 in what we call clean and lean work. And so that's addressing code enforcement violations that had a court order attached to them. But then we also do education workshops as well, and we typically do about 3 per year. So this year we focused on native plant landscaping, local pollinators and how you can support them, and then sustainability practices. I'm very excited to say that we have an economic development specialist finally after 2 years of no one focusing on it. But even with no one focusing on it specifically, we are still able to support our local businesses who make us a regional destination for people all over the DMV region. And this was our Open for Business and Facade Improvement grants. So that was 20 businesses and a little over $140,000 to support startup costs and then also storefront upgrades. I know earlier this year you had heard from our grants review committee, but it still is worth highlighting our community quality of life grants and food insecurity reduction grants. And so these are grants that are given out by the city to our local nonprofits who are doing incredible work, not only kind of with enrichment programs, but then also with critical services that are very much needed. And so with those, we had over 2,000 direct beneficiaries, 2,500 hours of programming, touching upon every single square mile of Tacoma Park itself. And then also securing additional external grants as well. With housing, it was another busy year. So this year, the big project was our Deauville tenant opportunity to purchase preservation. So this was working with the tenants at the Deauville, 7520 Maple Avenue, and helping them exercise their rights to assign their purchase rights to a nonprofit affordable housing provider. And then we were able to help pull in over $400,000 in state grants to support that purchase, which was about $11 million. And they're currently in the process of starting some of those upgrades that, as part of the assignment, they are contractually obligated to provide, such as a new roof and other interior renovations. In terms of direct tenant and housing assistance, we worked with over 200 tenants, and through our landlord-tenant mediation and our rent reporting work, we were able to return over $26,000 directly back to tenants, either who were potentially overcharged because the landlord violated our rent stabilization ordinance, or in cases where they might have not returned a security deposit. So that is part of the work that our housing staff does day in and day out. And then we provided over $130,000, which prevented 43 evictions and 2 utility shutoffs. We're also put together new tax credits for housing, and this is both to support our affordable housing that currently exists in Tacoma Park, and then provide incentives for new housing development through the new rental housing tax credit. And these tax credits will begin being awarded for FY27. For planning, we had our first year of our new traffic calming and sidewalk request process. And so this was designed to replace our kind of petition system, which was a little difficult and one might say inequitable. And so we had 43 submitted proposals during our first initial review process, and we had over 60 residents participate in the public forum. And what I will say is it seems to be picking up, because for FY27, we already have over 100 requests that we are currently working through right now. We also completed a number of the bikeway designs that we've been working on for the past 4 or 5 years. So the B section of our New Avenue Bikeway project, and then the Maple Avenue Connectivity Project. In our bicycle and pedestrian safety programming, we continue to partner with our 4 local schools. And then we also provide bike repair pop-ups at local farmers markets, and we serviced over 70 bikes through that program. And then we did our typical programming around bike to school day, walk to school day, and bike to work day, and got over 100 people involved in bike to work day. So looking ahead, we've got a whole bunch on our plate, but I'll just highlight a few items up here, and you can see the whole list on the back of the pamphlet. So that begins with kind of re-engaging with our small businesses, particularly in areas outside of our 3 major business associations, and developing a small business support fund. We're also going after additional state funds for facade grants, but we want to make sure that we're continuing this support, especially as we know the economic headwinds the city and the region are facing. Funding for the construction of bikeway projects. So we're prioritizing our Met Branch Trail, and so we'll be looking to go after state funds, both through the legislature and through the state agencies to see how much money we can pull in as we try to move from design work to construction. Building out our housing programs. We have our multifamily building improvement grant, and we actually have our phase 1 of the latest round. Applications are open and will be open until December 19th, and we have about 14 applicants already. And then we do really want to relaunch our first-time home buyer program, which we call Homestretch. We really want to make sure that we're providing what's called a housing ladder of opportunity. So people who might be renting in the city and want to kind of move into their first home, helping them make that jump. And then we have our policy work with looking at our tenant protections and how can we strengthen them, and then a review of rent stabilization, looking at its effectiveness and how we can make it an even better tool to provide affordable housing. So with all that, I've spoken a whole bunch. I really encourage you. We have this wonderful pamphlet that is in the HCD offices, and we'll make sure it's downstairs as well for members of the public to look at and browse. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I just want to give a huge shout out to the HCD team. The amount of work that this team has been able to do, short-staffed the entire year, and still able to meet the critical needs of so many of our residents. I don't think people fully understand how much this team works. They're on call, they're responsive, they are truly doing the hard work that it takes to not only do the work, but figure out ways to fund this important work. And so I just want to send my sincerest appreciation to you, Director McNally, and the entire HCD team, because I know we ask a lot of you all, and I know that the level of resources that we're able to provide for you to do all of the things that we want is not always there, but you all continue to take on these challenges with the spirit of excellence and really try to make sure that you're able to deliver. And I know that there's been just a lot of discussion regarding performance measures and where are the different outputs and the things that are indicative of the valuable work that you do, that our staff across the various departments do. And a lot of these numbers are often in our annual reports. And I want to give a special shout out to HCD for the pamphlet that you all developed. I think that one of the things that is often very difficult is how to, identifying ways to, in a very abbreviated format, be able to communicate the tremendous amount of work that our staff do in a year. People don't want to comb through a 60-page report. And I feel that what you all have developed is a visual way of an appealing way of highlighting all of the major accomplishments that your team has had over the course of the year. And I am all for visualizing data in the way in which you did, because even if we're not able to translate everything, one of the things that I found is that when you have fewer words and pictures and numbers, it resonates with folks a lot more. So I just want to give a special shout out to you all for working on that pamphlet. And I really do think that it may be a model for how we may want some of our other departments to kind of highlight some of the wonderful work that they're doing annually. And so with that, Councilmember Gilbert.
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to ask you how we were doing with the emergency rental assistance program and whether or not you had any data for us, and you beat me to it. And it's impressive, and I'm extremely appreciative that you all have done the work to keep people's furniture from showing up on Maple Avenue. And it's been a long time since I've seen that, so I was curious. So you're behind the scenes doing a tremendous work with that money, and that's awesome. So thank you. I know I promised you some questions, and I will email them to you. And but one of them is the planning intern. I just had a question about how that person's chosen and whether they're paid or not paid, and the time that they serve during the years.
Yeah, so our planning intern is a position posted like any other. So we review resumes, bring people in for interviews. It is a paid position, so it is an hourly pay. Typically, we try to be flexible schedule-wise. A lot of times these are students who are either in a master's program or are coming, right out of undergrad maybe and looking for a new position, or just getting started in their careers. So some of them want to work 40 hours and do a shorter period of time, and then others want to work part-time, like 20 hours, and kind of go over a period of 10 months.
That's awesome. Thanks.
Councilmember Westlake.
Thank you. This really is, it is such a deep and wide portfolio. So thank you so much. And I wanted to just especially shout out all the stuff that happens around the traffic calming, pedestrian safety, Ward 6. It's so important. It's what folks really want, and it feels, and you all have done a really great job in hearing that and getting things happening. And I know many residents are really appreciative. So thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Westlake. Councilmember DeBala.
Yeah, just thank you. I want to ask you to share our thanks with your entire staff, so everybody knows how impressed we are. And I look forward to a work session that I'd had asked about quite some time ago, that I understand will be scheduled later in the winter for tenant protections, an area that you obviously, as Councilmember Gilbert pointed out, have done a lot of work in. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember DeBala. Councilmember Hanzak.
Thank you so much. I think your team has done incredible work. As you said, there's a lot of breadth. So we had a 1 or 2 hour meeting the other day, and I want to thank you for that meeting. But I didn't want to keep it behind the curtain either, so that some of my colleagues would get a taste of some of the things that we touched on. So if you don't mind, it's going to take just a minute, and I'm just going to spin through some of the things that we talked about. And I'm going to leave it up to you to touch on the things that you think might be most important. I tried to worked on this hard to try to make it as brief as possible. But I'll break it into categories. So starting with congratulations on the recruitments and the, that was just enormous work that you did. And I'm excited for you that you've got all this staffing and one more to go. And so code enforcement, I see that some of the examples were switched in the presentation. But it brought to mind, as I looked at the initial drafts of this, some of the photos that were used to elucidate code enforcement issues. On the bright side, I think it shows how much we care about our residents and how much code enforcement works to not be punitive. But on the other side, I would really love to look forward into the coming year on how we might work with your department as a council to it, whether it might take council guidance too on how to help on two fronts. One, ensuring that our code enforcement is mostly focused on public right-of-way more than private property issues, which, as I had suggested, were sort of evident in some of the photos that we saw, that there was a lot more private enforcement, as shown as an example. And then secondly, on whether there's a there with my aspiration, my personal aspiration is that up to 40 to 50% of the code enforcement efforts that we undertake as a city, I would like to see them be not necessarily coming from residents themselves, but coming proactively from our code enforcement team, because I see that as a real challenge in some of our wards with major differences in how much demand or how many asks are coming from some places versus others, and the needs. And then, do you want me to stop there or go to the other two categories?
I just, Councilmember Honzak, I just want to be mindful of the time. So,
I like I said, so let me spin
so
through.
is there a question or?
Yeah, no, I was sharing with my colleagues so that it wasn't just a private conversation, some of those. So I'm going to let Devin decide whether he wanted to talk about some of the issues that were asked about. But can I go through the other two real quick, and then you just touch on whichever things you think are relevant? And then the second one was related to housing. We talked about the possibility of 24/7 kind of response to issues like power outages and other things. I think your team has done an absolutely incredible job this year and previously, but this year in particular, of supporting our residents, as my colleague just said. But I do still see this gap, and I'm eager to discuss how the council might enable that, particularly as we go into the budget process, if it's relevant. And then and then finally on bike safety, we specifically honed in on the Maple Connectivity Project, and I had asked some tough questions in relation to my understanding of that we're focused on the Met Branch Trail. But I thought I learned through the report all the work that we had done on bike safety, and it was just unbelievable and incredible. I think y'all are doing good spread, but I wasn't clear until we spoke about kind of where we are on Maple Connectivity. And I wanted to, again, offer the council's support for exploring how we can help Maple Connectivity move forward sooner than later, as a, for example, if that's through funding, for example, for additional bike safety on Maple Avenue, or looking at the bike infrastructure within the buildings on Maple Avenue, or possibly doing supporting work on looking at the parking issues for each building on Maple Avenue. We also talked about that as two areas that might possibly help that project move forward on sooner than later. And I think that covers it. So thank you for allowing me to dive in and share with my colleagues. Feel free to touch on any of those if you want to. We did hash it out.
Yeah, definitely a lot of topics there. I think the goal always with my department is being communicative about kind of what our standards are, what our expectations are of property owners, of landlords, of whatever group that we're dealing with. And so being able to clearly communicate that is something that I think we're very much working on. We have a fantastic communications department that is helping us make that more of a reality. I know in our previous website, it was a little bit more challenging to navigate, and so we're trying to get the most out of this new website, inputting a lot of things up there, but then also making sure that we're finding that right balance in when we're doing that enforcement work of trying to, enforce the code, but at the same time, be good neighbors. I think in terms of bike safety, we're always excited to partner with a whole host of different groups around, the Washington area who have a lot of experience and can bring kind of this amazing, let's call it these events or kind of public engagements. And so ways that we can kind of bring them into the city as well. And then, yes, Met Branch Trail is our priority. We have done some work on Maple Avenue, and the designs are done, but there's clearly more work to be done on that. It's just that we have, I only have 2 planning members, and I want to make sure that they get one project done, and so we're starting to be strategic in terms of just how we spend their time. So, not to say that it's not on the board, it's just we have to spend our time wisely.
Great, thank you very much. Councilmember Lamon.
Thank you. I also want to thank you for spending an inordinate amount of time talking through some other issues with me as well, and I'm not going to rehash them now, but I did want to ask you just one follow-up question about the new housing tax credits, because I think it's interesting to see the follow-on with the what happens once we enact a new provision, and I'm assuming that the first credits that you're mentioning that are going to apply in fiscal 27, that's not new housing construction. That's a ways away still. But do you have a sense, are you able to tell us how many housing units are going to come under that umbrella in fiscal 27, and if you have any estimate of the cost associated with those credits?
I don't have the full unit number. I can pull that data in, for you. We're slowly working on kind of the implementation, and so we're pulling some of those numbers as just kind of getting ourselves prepared. For the affordable housing tax credit, we're estimating somewhere around $300,000. And that's all the properties that would potentially fall. There is a table that we've put together of, and I believe it's been shared with council, of some of those initial estimates, which
That's in fiscal 27, or that's ultimately, or that's just in the
fiscal
first
year 27
Fiscal
is when,
27.
yes. So if every single property that we believe is eligible came in, applied for, and by right would be eligible for the tax credit, that is what we believe the number would be.
And on one last thought, which is on the Maple Avenue Connectivity Project, falling short of doing that project, which is not universally loved, I think there might be some things that we could do for bike safety along Maple Avenue, along the stretch in front of the city hall and the schools in the meantime, because it could be many years until we could undertake that project, especially because we know there's going to be school construction and a lot of disruption along there that would make it kind of impracticable to do a big, bicycle construction project for a number of years. So I think we should think about short-term efforts that we could do that are focused on bike safety on that stretch as an interim before we undertake something more major, and not wait for that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Lamb and Councilmember Schlegel.
Thank you, and hello to my colleagues in person. I've been listening to the whole meeting, but I was driving, so first off, I wanted to say thank you so much for the report and for your responses to questions that I asked, and congratulations on the new staff members coming on board. And with a small shop, it is probably really important for you to be helping build a common team culture right now. So I appreciate everything that you're doing in that respect. I was pleased to see in the report that the current code enforcement methodology is to circulate through and examine all properties 2 or 3 times a year. And that, to me, you can comment if you like, but that to me seems like a change from the past, when I understood that sometimes it was based on calls received or concerns reported. You can comment on that if you want, but yeah, just.
Yeah, so typically the way that code enforcement conducts its kind of searches is following our trash routes. And so they will drive those. That does essentially 4 days of kind of the different routes, and that gives them 1 day to kind of respond to various other complaints that come in. And certainly if there's a complaint that comes in that's kind of within that route, they will take some time to go look at that specific complaint. But that is how they typically conduct their operations.
Thanks. And my only other question was, as we continue to prioritize engagement and two-way communication, I wondered whether you had any insights from HCD as you've gone about continued efforts with tenant organizing, and also related to that, to what extent language barriers seem to be operative. And we know we have many native speakers who speak different languages in the home, but I do wonder, in your experience, how many people are already conversant in English and are using English to interact with the department?
So I think it's an interesting question. There are, obviously, if someone has English proficiency or English is their first language, it is, a simple fact that it is much easier to reach out to government because they automatically, they're able to kind of converse. There are a lot of ways that we try to do that through kind of language interpretation. We have some wonderful staff members who are bilingual, who are very gracious about offering their services and helping out and working with residents that come in, that call in, to connect with them. But obviously that is a barrier. One of the challenges obviously is, if a building is primarily Spanish speaking, they will, that is something that can make reaching out difficult. And so that's one of the reasons why, our website now has the ability to switch to Spanish. But one of the things that we're hoping to do, and I have a draft on my desk that I need to get back to our wonderful new housing manager, is release an RFP for tenant organizing assistance. And so being able to connect with groups that are already doing fantastic work within the county that work directly with tenants, that know how to organize, that know how to kind of put these pieces together to help expand our efforts, because my staff is very diligent about trying to be there when there are like tenant association meetings or meeting the tenants where they are, but there's only a small number of us and we want to be able to expand our reach. And so this is going to be one of the ways that we're trying to do it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, thank you. We appreciate it. And now we're going to move to our voting session this evening. The first item is the resolution adopting the FY27 budget priorities. At first, I just want to thank everyone, my colleagues on council and staff, for providing feedback on the draft resolution. There were a number of friendly amendments that were made to the version that has been attached. And so I will be moving for us to agree to the friendly amended version, but I'll walk through relatively quickly the modifications that have been made. So there were some modifications that were made to the whereas clauses. Many of them were editorial. The first resolve clause includes the addition, the first bullet, continue to advance. There's been an adjustment, strategies to maintain and expand the city's housing stock. That was a suggestion by staff. The language has also been revised to include affordable and middle income housing preservation and housing development, which was an edit by Councilmember Landman. For the second bullet was continue planning for the replacement of the Tacoma Park Rec Center, including identifying replacement options. I believe that was a Councilmember DeBala edit. And then identifying funding needs to support programming. Thank you, Councilmember Schlegel, for finding that extra M, because I had lost it. Designed to enable the city to reach its climate goals, such as support city fleet electrification. Councilmember DeBala provided that edit, and I do believe that that was something that was discussed. For the last bullet, there was a focus on the city's economic development efforts to clarify. And then for the second resolve clause, city staff wanted us to make sure that we clarified that the city manager will submit the proposed budget. The first three bullets were those that we had resolved based on the hand votes during our last work session. The fourth bullet, identify alternatives to increases in the general fund to support FTEs that leverage ARPA funds that expire on December 31st, 2026. So that edit has been made to clarify the fact that the ARPA funds actually go into the middle of FY27. And moreover, the FTEs in question are not fully funded using ARPA funds. They may be partially funded. And so the idea was we're likely to have to carry forward ARPA dollars. And the idea is for staff to figure out some way to make sure that that second half of the fiscal year in which those ARPA funds will have expired are not added to the general fund. So the goal is to give them some flexibility, but they're going to have to figure out some way to address that remaining amount for this fiscal year. And I know that I've been in conversations with our city management team, and they are going to make sure that they're presenting something to us because they understand the spirit of what the council is saying that will reflect not a general fund increase, but they're also looking at making sure FTEs are not reflected as an increase as well. The next bullet was just editorial change in terms of clarifying the impact of the modifications of the commercial property tax, and that was to help staff understand what it is that we're looking for. There was lots of discussions around the impacts of the commercial property tax rate. And so the idea is for us to have information needed to understand what potential impacts of any modifications to the commercial property tax are as part of the budget process, and to also make sure, similarly for the utility tax rate, especially in light of the fact that we know that PEPCO is increasing or engaging in rate increases right now, so that staff can come back and make sure that we fully understand as a council before we make a decision regarding modifications to the commercial tax rate or the rate, utility tax rate, that we understand what the we have information on the potential impacts of those modifications. And then the last item, given the changing financial landscape, identify whether modifications to assigned uncertainty reserves are appropriate. Reserves are appropriate. That's a friendly amendment, including identification of a fund for support to residents most impacted by a changing federal policy. And that was a mix between an edit from Councilmember Landman and an edit from Councilmember DeBala. The idea being we will have these, staff will need to take a look at where we may stand with our unassigned reserves from FY20, our assigned reserve from FY26, and where we are with that, but also keeping in mind that things are ever evolving, and there may be other assigned reserves that we may want to decide to make as a council in terms of making sure we have resources in the event that members of our community may be negatively impacted as a result of federal policy. So with that, I'm happy to pause to allow folks to ask questions, and then we can move forward with moving the item. Councilmember Schlegel?
Yes, this is a question about the third bullet from the bottom in the be it further resolved. The one about the ARPA funds. This, that seems to be asking that by the time the draft budget is presented, there will have already been a fix made starting January 1st. So are we sort of mixing in a directive about an FY26 budget amendment here?
No. So the big challenge is that the federal schedule for ARPA does not align with our budgeting schedule. And so because of that, the ARPA funds carry into FY27. And so what we don't want to see in terms of the budget that we're going to be talking about in the spring for FY27 is that there is an increase in general funds to absorb that remaining amount of FTEs or salaries that would need to be accounted for that were previously funded under ARPA. It's not a clean break in that it doesn't immediately happen at the start of FY27. It actually starts well into FY27 because those ARPA dollars don't expire until the end of next year. So really what we're asking staff to do is do not present us with a budget that is showing an increase in general funds to account for the remaining of those salaries for FTE. We're trying to give staff some flexibility because we recognize that the positions are not fully ARPA. So it could be that they may take advantage of some vacancies to make sure those FTEs balance and the salaries balance, but we want to give them a little bit of wiggle room given that there's a buy year in which part of it is ARPA and part of it is not. And I'll kind of turn things over to the city manager because I know that we've chatted at length about this.
I think you've described it very well, Madam Mayor. The city's done a very good job of trying to utilize all of the outside resources over the course of time that the city has been in receipt of ARPA funds. I've been very careful about making sure that we've committed within the deadlines and spend within the deadlines. And as Madam Mayor said, ARPA funds are some of the remaining funds that we do have, rather than turn them back, can be utilized through the end of the next calendar year, which is halfway through the next fiscal year. So the idea from a budgetary standpoint is, as I understand it, is to make sure that for that second half of that fiscal year, that this isn't just a conversion to general fund. That portion that was ARPA fund the first half of the year just doesn't become a general fund increase for the second half of the fiscal year. So we are going to look for general fund offsets so that we do not have generally a net increase
Oh, I see.
in the general fund, and we can find that in various ways, including by offering to not fund with the general fund some vacancies, and perhaps other ways to find efficiencies and savings, so that there is not in essence, a net increase in the general fund as a result of positions. And certainly we continue to scrutinize continuously for efficiencies, including vacancies that we feel will not impact the ability of staff to provide the quality services that the mayor and council have and the community have desired and needed.
Oh, thank you. So I appreciate that. And I think to my colleagues, since we're discussing this resolution, I would like to suggest that we add to that bullet point, identify sustainable alternatives as the second word, sustainable. I am concerned that it might turn out in practice that we at some point, let's say we use vacancies or let's say the city manager uses vacancies as a short-term measure, but then it could be that traffic light camera funds come to be used to keep those positions going. And I don't see traffic light funds or stop sign camera funds as sustainable, because the goal is that compliance increases and those numbers fall. So I'm worried that we could end up with a permanent additional 2.5 positions, which is not something that previous councils committed to.
City manager, you want to take this? And I'll
Sure.
also point to some language in the resolution that I think already gets at what you're speaking to.
Sure. Thank you for the question. What I'll be seeking is sustainable general fund savings. In other words, if there were vacancies in the general fund, those would have been otherwise positions that would have arguably been funded in perpetuity, into the future. If those are not funded and not filled, then those are truly sustainable savings. I understand your point about red light. It's not my intention to add additional positions into the red light camera fund.
And I do just want to say to my colleagues, as part of that first bullet of the second resolve clause, there was an addition: continue current fiscal year services with presentations on potential staff identified cost-saving measures. So the idea was to make sure that when staff are coming back to us with the budget, that is not just about providing current level of services, but also providing us with information regarding potential cost-saving measures.
That's in the first one.
It's in the second resolve, first bullet.
Oh, thank you. There it is.
It's
in the be it further resolved
It's
section.
in the second resolve, first bullet.
Yeah.
Second resolve. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Landman.
This is about the same, asking a question about the same bullet, the one referring to the changes regarding the FTEs. So identify alternatives to increases in the general fund to support the FTEs that leverage the ARPA funds. My question has to do with limiting this to the general fund. I mean, other funds that we have are also filled, the money in those funds comes from tax revenues. I mean, the ERR money comes from tax revenues. It's just put into that fund to set aside the other funds, that other components of the budget, such as the funds that we put into the reserves come from revenues as well. The general fund is not the only place where tax revenues go, so I'm not.
The general fund impacts the tax rate. So if this is in essence saying, do not increase our tax rate or use taxpayer dollars for the purpose of the remainder of those FTEs for the remaining of FY27. The ERR and modifications to the ERR does not impact the tax rate. The stormwater does not impact the tax rate. So the general fund is that revenue source. And the reserves is also part of that general fund. So that is what impacts the tax rate. So, and that is typically where, aside from, the police department, when they have, red light cameras, those kinds of things,
So the term general fund is the umbrella that includes all of the reserves that are drawn out of the general fund and set aside into those reserves? Is that what you're saying?
No. So the budget has multiple buckets. You have your general fund, which
Yeah.
includes our expenditures. You have your general fund reserves. Then you have other buckets of money that are, in essence, like the ERR is like a, dare I say it, a little bit of a savings account that we're kind of
Yes.
ticking off from.
Yes, but I mean,
The
that money is.
contribution
yeah.
that we make in that particular fiscal year for the ERR is something that would be in the general fund because it needs to move over.
Right.
But the total bucket of the monies that are in the ERR are not necessarily part of the general fund. They're treated separately.
Okay, my point is that I don't want us to be able to look to those other reserve pots of money or other pots of money that may have originated from tax revenues to fill this void, if they're also sourced from tax revenues, because that would sort of be like a shell game, if you see what I'm saying.
No,
So
no,
I
no.
think you're assuring me that the point of this is that we cannot rely on tax revenues as the way to get through this problem, whether it's from the general fund or from reserves that were siphoned originally from the general fund and put in reserve for purposes of specific
My big issue.
savings accounts created from the general fund.
My big issue is that because the ARPA dollars go until the end of the calendar year.
I understand
because-
the purpose of aligning it with the ARPA dollars. I'm just talking about whether the term general fund is intended to signify that other funds that have their origin in tax dollars are also off limits as a way to finance these FTEs.
Councilmember, you were referring to reserves. I think you intend to refer to other funds. We would never fund a personnel cost from a reserve. We couldn't. Most of our reserves are defined, where they have a policy definition for the use. There are other funds. The general fund is the exclusive fund for which, tax revenue is the source of funding. There are other enterprise funds and other special funds which have different sources that are not tax dollars.
Okay,
So as a,
the
for instance,
uncertainty reserve, for example, could never be used for funding staff?
we wouldn't fund positions from reserves, but we could, and we do currently fund other positions from other funds. So as a, for instance, the Stormwater Fund funds a
That's-
portion of our civil engineer and our construction manager. Now, I think staff have a clarifying question. Are you suggesting that we would be unable, through your suggested language, be able to fund, even if it was sustainable, some portion of the 2.5 FTEs from a different funding source that is not general fund, and those funding sources not be directly associated with tax revenue, but some other form of income?
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to understand whether whether in agreeing to this, what we are doing is robbing Peter to pay Paul. Because initially our thought was when the ARPA funds are gone, that the staff that we had been funding in order to manage the ARPA funds, though the financing of those positions would also be gone. And that if what we're doing now is essentially coming up with a way to continue to fund those staff, but potentially using other sources of money, whether it be temporarily, red light funds, the red light camera funds, or some other source that may, result in us having, a way to do it that is temporarily looks like a fix, but still leaves us with that much less revenue to deal with other city objectives, then we are really not getting to the heart of the matter. So I'm just trying to understand the end result of all of this, whether we are actually achieving our desired goal. And I understand we do need the staff potentially as long as we are still managing the ARPA funds, and that's not my question.
Well, I think it's important to also note, and definitely defer to the city manager to provide this explanation, but the staff impacted are not solely working on ARPA. So it is not necessarily the case that 100% of the salaries of the FTE in question are funded by ARPA for all of them. Some of them, it is a partial. So it could very well be the case that depending on the functions and the roles that they have, that there may be some logical reasons. Again, in terms of moving dollars around. Again, my goal is to make sure, because again, keeping in mind that this is a bi-year, right, in which you have a lot of this transition that needs to happen, is that I don't want to see an increase in the FTE in the general fund. I don't want to see an increase in the general fund to deal with the fact that we have to deal with this transition. I also don't want people to immediately get fired in December. So trying to give staff the flexibility that they need to figure it out so that we don't see those things happen is what this language is designed to do. Keeping in mind that the general fund is the pocket of monies that typically relate to the tax rate, and typically is where the majority of our staffing costs are deducted from. City Manager DeSpirito.
Yes, thank you. Yeah,
Sorry for being so dense about this. Thank you for taking the time to explain it.
Sure. Again, it's not my intention to approach the 2.5 positions from the standpoint of just finding another funding source within the city. My thought is, and I think the spirit of this is to find a cost offset, to find savings. That's why we're talking about vacancies. That's sustainable, particularly in the general fund. I don't want to go to the red light camera fund, and we have restrictions, as David indicated, on special reserve funds. You know, we have facility maintenance reserves and ERR and all. No, those special reserves and funds are there for a prescribed purpose, and that's not just to pick up expenses when we can't find funding for them otherwise. So, you know, that's the spirit in which my staff and I will proceed in compiling a budget for the council and community's consideration in late March. We obviously need some time in the coming months to, you know, find those solutions, but I believe we will. And I understand the spirit in which you're bringing this is that, you know, there is not going to be any kind of I just want to be very straightforward about how we're going to try to approach it. And I think we're in agreement that we're not looking to find just a different way to spend the same money that we are now. We've got to find some ways as a staff to present to you that reflect a sustainable, affordable path for, you know, if certain positions are going to be sustained, because as the mayor said, a tremendous amount of the work being done by these folks in the seats right now, and there are human beings sitting in these seats, is not related to ARPA and hasn't been for a while. But that's okay in that ARPA funds can be used for anything. They weren't any positions funded by ARPA from the beginning were never required to be for the administration of an ARPA program. One position was, for a period of time, the ARPA manager. Other positions helped manage projects that were funded by ARPA and help with the accounting and IT and so forth. But there's tremendous need and value in these positions beyond that as well. And so part of what I'd ultimately recommend, you know, in whatever mix of personnel that I present to you all, will reflect meeting needs and providing services to the community and a sustainable way to afford them.
Great, thank you very much. Councilmember Honzak?
Just quickly, listening to this conversation, I wonder whether it could be useful, because it's been very artfully put together, I think, to achieve all the goals that you've outlined. I wonder if on the first bullet at the end of it, if we were to add something like, so where it says, with presentations on potential staff identified cost-saving measures, including overall FTEs, does that, city manager, does that constrain the ability to identify alternatives in a way that
Which bullet are you talking about?
talking
I'm
about the
sorry.
first bullet? I just thought that might help clarify for colleagues that are feeling like they would like to give this direction. I happen to be one of them about the overall
Okay.
inclusion,
Now-
but
Now that I see it, could I
yeah,
ask you please just to repeat?
repeat that. Yeah,
point?
after the word measures, if we were to include including overall FTEs, just to be slightly more explicit about what the council is thinking about and giving total flexibility on where the FTEs come from.
It's talking about presentations. So you're talking about presentations on
With
potential
presentations on
staff-identified
potential
cost-saving.
staff identified cost-saving measures, including overall FTEs. In other words, overall FTEs being
Well-
a cost-saving measure.
Sure, we always present with
I know that you would do this.
FTEs,
I'm just
yeah.
wondering if that would help my colleagues feel that we've been slightly more directive about what it is we're talking about here
Mm.
with respect to bullet number 4. If it adds nothing, so be it. But I can
Yeah,
understand where
respectfully,
the
I would
sentiment
not-
is coming from because
Yeah.
it's slightly buried.
I appreciate the spirit in which you offer that suggestion. Because I would need time to think a little bit more about
Okay,
how that
I
could
just
be
thought of it as we're
interpreted or
sitting here to try to help
misinterpreted.
make headway on this.
would
Okay,
respectfully ask that maybe that not be included for,
I withdraw the,
okay. But thank you for,
but I'm glad that we had
offering
the
a
chance
suggestion.
to briefly discuss it. It is important to many of us. Thank you.
Councilmember Schlegel?
Yes, I guess to keep it very simple, our Manager Despirito, are you indicating that it is your intention to revert to the, like, subtract 2.5 FTEs one way or another by the end of FY '27. In essence, when you talk about vacancies, that these 2.5 FTEs would find their way into other vacancies, or are you leaving the door open such that the next council next December would have to decide yet again whether they were comfortable with there having been a net increase of 2.5 since 2021?
Yeah, not the latter.
Point of
I
procedure?
think, I just need everybody to just give me a minute. I'm so glad this is the last meeting. I need for people to understand that number of FTE and costs may be very different things, right? And so if you can sustain some cost savings that have been something that is sustainable in your budget, let's say you eliminate something, you've come up with some new efficiency, you eliminate something that has been in your budget for forever in 3 days, you may be able to repurpose those dollars where maybe you see an increase in the FTE, but your overall general expenditures have decreased. So I think it's important for us to not focus so much on the number of FTE and more on the actual cost or the general fund expenditures, which is what taxpayers will pay. So I could have 3 staff that are junior, they're bodies, but the total cost for them is a lot lower than 3 staff that are higher tier that are getting paid more per hour. So I want us to really focus more, and the reason why the language is the way that it is because I want us to focus on the expenditures, which is ultimately what we pay. So I don't want necessarily, and I've even said this to the city manager, I don't want vacancies of positions that's not going to cover the total cost of the remaining expenditures associated with these positions. I do not want to see an increase in the general fund associated with this. So that's a very nuanced thing, but it is important because it means that you're not necessarily just focused on the FTE, you're actually focused on the expenditures, which is what people pay. So I just want to make that point clear because that's the nuance that we're trying to get at with this bullet.
Absolutely. And it's nuanced, I understand, and it's nuanced because I honestly don't know what the original 2.5 positions were and what they are now, and whether the positions being paid now are less expensive or more expensive than the ones that were originally paid.
Right. Councilmember DeBala.
Just point of procedure. Do we need to move?
We will move it. Councilmember Wesselak.
I just wanted to point out that that bullet begins with identify alternatives. We're going to get that in the spring. We can see what recommendations the city manager has, where it comes from, what we think is good, and decide on that and approve it in the budget. I feel like we're kind of getting in the weeds right now when that's a conversation for later when we actually are given options and we can say if we like those or not.
Thank you, Councilmember Wesselak. Okay, all right, seeing no more lights, would someone like to move the amended resolution adopting the FY '26 budget priorities? Thank you, Councilmember DeBala. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Gilbert. Any other, as I should have said, as amended, and that includes the last bullet, uncertainty reserves are appropriate.
Madam Mayor, if I want to offer an amendment to the document as amended, I would like to offer an amendment to the second bullet of the second resolved, the be it further resolved cluster, which currently reads, maintain the adopted fiscal year '26 residential tax rate of 0.522, semicolon, and I would like to, I'll read my proposed alternative bullet, and then I'll provide a copy of it to the clerk. Here's the alternative. treat the adopted fiscal year 26 residential tax rate of 0.5522 as the maximum allowable rate in developing the proposed budget, but strive to present the council with a budget that is consistent with the estimated constant yield plus ECI to the extent that this figure is lower than last year's rate, semicolon, and.
Would someone like to second that motion?
I second that motion.
Any points of question or clarification? I will say, Councilmember Lamon, I will be voting against this because I did not have it ahead of time to be able to do the necessary research to identify what the current ECI rate is and to determine whether or not this is something that is actually feasible.
I will explain the rationale behind this. Okay, and I'll read it. Shall I read it again?
Please.
Okay. Treat the adopted fiscal year 26 residential tax rate of 0.522 as the maximum allowable tax rate in developing the proposed budget, which is essentially where we are right now, okay, with what's on the table. But strive to present the council with a budget that is consistent with the estimated constant yield plus ECI to the extent that this figure is lower than last year's rate. So the fiscal 26 rate is 0.5522. As we have been discussing in the last couple of meetings, the constant yield plus ECI is going to be somewhere close to the number that we are talking about, 0.5522, because I think you were the one, Madam Mayor, who said that it was 3.9%.
That was in
last year.
2024. And I just want to
Yeah.
confirm, when do we receive the constant yield? We typically receive it in February. So would staff be able to develop a budget based on an estimated constant yield plus an ECI that we don't have? We're back to two budgets.
Would be much more difficult in that we just have to estimate.
It will have to be estimated. Pardon?
Sorry, never mind, go on.
I realize it would be an estimate. I think that we're not talking about the possibility of it being exact any more than this proposed budget is also going to be something that will have to be in a proposed form when we get it, and it will have to be tinkered with in the end of the day. The number it may not be possible for it to be as low as the estimated constant yield plus ECI. That's something that I'm asking them to strive for. I think it's not going to be that different. But the point of putting this into our resolution is to send a signal to the staff and to the general public that our goal as a council is to have as our target not constant yield every year, but constant yield with a room for inflation and the ECI to be part of our annual budget, so that we're not constraining the staff to expect them to, be tightening their belt and shortchanging our ability to meet our service demands every year. Still be able to do what they're doing year on year, taking into account inflation and the other unemployment costs and so forth. So we're not, making it impossible to live up to the service expectations of the city, but to send a signal that we don't always get to take advantage of, the increases in property tax assessments to just have it go up and up and up and make it impossible for people on fixed incomes who live within a COLA that isn't even as much as the ECI, but to show our intentions that the constant yield plus an ECI is the figure that we're striving for. So I'm not saying to our city staff that if it's impossible for them to get there, that we're gonna, take out the firing squad, but to say that that is what we strive for as we set the budget forth. And I recognize it's an estimate, and I recognize that, as you say in the first beginning part of this document, that this is we are not setting the tax rate today. It's not the final. So we know that there's going to be flexibility and it could change. And I'm asking people to consider this because I think that we need to be firm in indicating to the staff of the city and to our taxpayers who are so hard pressed this year that we're serious about bringing spending under control. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lamon. And I just want to call everyone's attention to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7th whereas, where we also acknowledge some of the information required to complete the budget is currently unavailable. For example, the constant yield rate. And there are potential external factors that may impact what is ultimately included in the budget. So that language was added in response to the discussion that we had last week, where there was a hand vote in which the decision was made to include for practical reasons, the current tax rate for staff to build upon, recognizing that we wouldn't have the constant yield rate, and we also would not have information regarding the most current estimate for ECI. Again, I want to reinforce that as we are working through the budget and those numbers become available, council has the ability to set the final tax rate, and council has the ability to cut services in order to reach that tax rate. But I am trying to be cognizant of what is practical for staff as they are working to develop a budget for us to react to. Councilmember Schlegel.
Thank you. I'm inclined to support this amendment. I first wanted to clarify that last week I was not proposing that we move to constant yield year after year after year. But I had been reading so many comments from the citizens who did respond to the budget survey, and just hearing a strong common thread of people talking about the financial hardships they were facing and asking for, whether it was $50, as you said, Mayor Searcy, or something different, some kind of at least signal that the council was hearing them. And the proposals the options that I put on the table last week, they were not me as a professional manager saying, oh, I think you could do this or that or the other thing. They were just saying there seemed to be lots of ways to even for 1 year take it as far down as constant yield. This proposal from Councilmember Landman is extremely modest by comparison. We don't know exactly what constant yield will be or the ECI, but it's likely, as Councilmember Landman said, to be very close. So that's why I will support this.
Thank you, Councilmember Schlegel. Councilmember DeBala.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the suggestion. I would have preferred it to see it in writing even an hour before the meeting.
I apologize for that. We didn't get these documents until today. Or maybe they came in yesterday, but I didn't get them.
Well, I just want to clarify,
But I had-
council, just really quickly, council had 48 hours with the original draft to provide comments, and this is, even in the first iteration, is the first time that I am hearing of this language.
Be that as it may, I understand that the bulk of people who responded to the to the community survey are from wards 1 and 3. Quite a few of them for Ward 2 also, and I understand there are people on fixed incomes, particularly elderly, who are concerned, deeply concerned about taxes. I would like to see us finalize the proposed tax rebates that we talked about last year, and budgeted for, and have that be a place to start, so that the people that we've already identified who are low and moderate income, seniors and not, would get more of a tax break. So that's the first thing I want to say, rather than put this in there. The second thing that I want to say is in the first bullet, it talks about presentations on potential staff identified cost-saving measures. So rather than ask the staff to do a budget and essentially 2 different tax rates, I would in effect like to see the budget with the flat tax rate and identified areas of potential cost savings that we could choose. So and that's already in here. So that's another reason I'm not crazy about your language. And there was a third thing. Give me a moment.
2 reasons.
Oh, there were 4, but we're just going with 3 today. No, that was pretty much it. I rolled a couple together. So I feel that this adds a little too much confusion.
Thank
But I
you.
appreciate your suggesting it, and I have thought about it.
Thank you, Councilmember DeBala. Councilmember Westlake?
Thank you. I think I want to echo again. I think it makes sense to give a clear direction to the staff and to the city manager. I support the language as is with maintaining that rate. I will be very interested in the spring when we know the constant yield and know the ECI. It will be very interesting as we go through reconciliation to see, is it very close, is it not? If we cut this, we can say it was the same rate, or it's, we can see how it is then. But I don't see I understand your point. I believe we have signaled to our residents in multiple other ways and staff our intention to tighten and reduce if possible. But I think the actual act of doing any of that is when we have the budget in front of us and when we have the rates in front of us. And that's, the rate is the final thing we do during reconciliation, if I'm correct. So let's just do this as the aim, as is, and when we have it, we can see where we end up. And maybe we do end up with exactly what you're describing, Councilmember Landman, or we remain with this. It's all still for us to figure out and decide months from now.
Thank you, Councilmember Westlake. City Manager DeSpirito.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate all the comments. And just a point of clarification, strive for that language. I mean, ultimately, we build a budget proposal if we had to rely on just estimates, and I'm not entirely sure, and it's just asking for clarification, what was intended with strive for, because we really can't, we're building a big proposal. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of departments. I'm not quite sure what strive for would mean, and I didn't want to assume.
What I meant by that was to use the best estimates that we have of what constant yield plus ECI is as your target, and use that as your target.
As opposed to building one on the current rate.
Right.
Okay.
And so that would be the target that you would use, knowing that you don't have the precise numbers now.
Yeah, another concern would be that the ECI is not a perfect predictor of expenses that are fixed and we're subject to. Health insurance and a number of things, they may or may not fit within the ECI. So that's why I have a little concern. It sounds like in any event, it would be a rate lower and bring in less revenue than what the current rate would. And that alone is concerning, just giving, again, fixed expenses where we're subject to the impact of inflation. We have the comp and class study, we have union negotiations, we have a lot of, we're subject to a lot of expenses beyond our control. To begin with a place that says that we will have, as it is, it's going to be a struggle to build a budget that's, balanced and meets mayor and council priorities, even within the current 0.55 rate. If we're, by definition, saying something less than that, then as we discussed at the last meeting, we're probably looking at some service reduction to the public.
Thank you, City Manager. Councilmember Honzak.
I mostly would like to echo my fellow council member Westlake. I think you articulated quite well, but I just think it's extremely important that after a "be it further resolved" clause, that the bullets are very lucid about what we are asking the staff to do for us. And I think that if we add any additional language to the second bullet, we are taking away from that perfect clarity. And what I hear you suggesting to me sounds like political language to speak to residents' aspirations. And I think the way to do that is to use other media to do that, use other mediums to do that, because I think this document is quite clear on what we're asking of staff, and what that is asking to me is the why. I think because it sounds to me like, based on our current estimates, we'll be approximately at 0.55, and the clarity is just more important than the narrative. So I welcome ideas on how to tell that narrative more clearly in a different format.
Given that there's been lots of discussion, do I have a motion to move to the vote?
I have,
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Wesselek. Do I have a second?
I would like
move
to make
vote?
another comment. I've had my light on.
Councilmember Schlegel, you've commented on this matter multiple times. We've had lots of debate on it.
I have a question for the manager, that's all.
Okay, go ahead.
This was the first time that I've heard that it's not possible to ask for a budget proposal that is predicated on constant yield plus any kind of estimate. Are you aware?
Well, I didn't say that.
Well, I've heard it from over here. So is it the case that there are municipalities or cities that do receive a directive to say, build your budget upon constant yield plus some other factor, or constant yield in fact in some places, which would be kind of crazy, but is that, or is it just not possible because constant yield numbers don't come out until later? In other words, can you get a budget close? This is just for the record, not for, I see where we're going, but for the record, is it possible to get a budget close, and then when you get those numbers in February, you make final adjustments?
I'm not certain, to be honest with you, because I've never seen this before anywhere else. I've never seen another city do it, although maybe it's happened in the world. Constant yield plus, some inflationary factor. That's at least new to me. I'm not saying it's inherently a bad idea or anything. I'm just saying I'm not familiar with that approach. And I do know, and we've established that we'd have to rely on estimates for both the constant yield dollar amount as well as a ECI. So would definitely be more difficult to put together a concise proposed budget for FY27 on that basis. I do think that as we get into, as was mentioned just a moment ago, that as we get into the budget development process, that and also with the advantage of some of the financial analysis that we've been able to access with our consultant, that we could run projections and we can talk about different scenarios once we're into the process, and that should inform the conversation quite a bit.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. And so we have a motion on the floor, Councilmember Wesselek to call the vote. I have a second from, I believe it was Councilmember DeBala to call the vote. All those in favor of Councilmember Landman's amendment to the resolution, please say aye. All those opposed? Aye. Any abstain? Okay. So now on the floor is the amended budget priorities resolution. And so with that, I'm not seeing any other lights as amended. Okay.
Everybody.
All right. All right, Councilmember Landman,
Pardon?
do you have a light? Okay. Oh, no worries. All right. So
May
we'll
I
be.
ask a quick question, Mayor? Who was the council member that changed the expand to focus on? Was that?
That
or
was
it a
Councilmember
friendly
DeBala.
amendment? Can I just ask if there was a particular reason?
There was concern that it could imply increase in costs.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so this is more of a retention. Okay.
Correct. Councilmember DeBala.
In conversation with someone else, it was pointed out that because we now have full staff, it is essentially an expansion. But my concern was about implying that there was a dollar expansion on this And that was the only place in this list of bullets where we would use the word expand in a financial sense, and that was something that troubled me. So that's why I suggested focus.
Okay, all right. And so with that, all those in favor of the resolution adopting the FY27 council budget priorities, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay.
Abstain.
Abstain.
2 abstains. All right, the next item on the agenda is a resolution providing for the council's winter recess. And if I could move this, I would.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Landman for moving and Councilmember Hanzak for seconding. Any points of discussion on this one?
Let's have fun.
All right. Seeing none.
Wait, I do have a point of discussion. Honestly, is there some blackout dates people want to propose when we're not even sending emails? Because I know like in August, there was a lot of work still being done all over the place.
I can speak for myself personally. I am always the mayor of Tacoma Park. I wish I could I was in Europe messaging people.
I'm fine with that. Yeah.
So,
If I can suggest one of the ways that I do, like if you actually are going on a vacation
No,
during
I'm
that
not
period.
asking for it. I was being considerate of
No,
others.
I know.
because-
I do think, though, that I have sometimes, we're always having to serve in these roles, as the mayor said, because I was one of the ones that pinged you while you were in Europe. But if you know you're going to be offline too, I do use my out of office as you would in a typical role, just to clarify who people could contact if you're not reachable, because I don't consider us to be emergency responders, except maybe, sorry, mayor and city manager, but except mayors and city managers. But I don't think even mayors should have to be on emergency call
Yeah.
because we're not paid enough for that. But that's how it is.
We just refer people to our staff for when we're away, right?
Our staff.
Yeah.
Partially. We have a full-time staff.
awesome.
We don't have any staff, so.
All right. Okay, so with that, all those in favor of setting forth the dates of the City Council winter holiday recess from December the 10th until January the 14th, please say aye. Aye. Do you have any opposed? Any abstain? All right. Everybody have a fantastic holiday. And y'all have a good night.